Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Editorial Edge. Every morning, I am with you, BhuvanAJha, as we take a look at the articles that matter, information that matters from the examination point of view. I welcome each one of you once again. If you can just quickly let me know if you can hear and see me all right, so that we can begin. Yes, very quickly, just let me know in the chat, and we shall begin. We have important articles to take care of today. All right. So, good morning, Arka, Deepak. Good morning, guys. Welcome. Thanks for joining, all of you. So just let me know very quickly in the chat. And I have two very important announcements. Firstly, I should thank each one of you who's joining us here on StudyIQ in whichever program, by whichever faculty, whichever lecture, whichever class. We have completed 100K subscribers on YouTube, StudyIQ English, and that is primarily due to the support, only due to the support, the patronage of all our students. So, just on a personal basis, thank you so much for your patronage. We hope that we continue to serve your best interests. Okay. Good morning, Rajan, Tanu, Arka, Monica Thakur. Good morning, guys. Good morning. All right. So that's the first announcement. We have, in fact, completed 100K, a million, which is all thanks to you guys. All right. And secondly, the environment class that I had been mentioning in my previous lectures, well, that's going to begin on Sunday or Monday, depending on the time slot availability, which is still open to be decided by you guys. So head over to my Telegram channel. Let me know which time is convenient and suitable for you. What's the frequency, and we shall get started without any further delay. All right. Good morning, Bulbul. Welcome. All right. Okay. So the three topics that I have for you today. First, we will take you to Goa. All right. And in Goa, the Mahadei Wildlife Sanctuary. So there is this article in the Indian Express, wherein the Goa High Court, the Goa bench of the Bombay High Court, has said that the Mahadei Wildlife Sanctuary ought to be converted into a tiger reserve within the next stipulated time. But you find that there is some opposition from the side of the Goa government. So first we'll understand what's the whole case about. Then we'll understand how do you go ahead and notify a tiger reserve. We'll understand NTCA, we'll understand tiger corridors, carrying capacity, viable population, all of that. Examination perspective only. I'm not interested in the political bickering. I'm interested in figuring out all the tangents to that particular case. All right. Good morning, Soumya, Alika. Guys, welcome. All right. Second, we'll take a look at the vice chairperson election. In fact, this happened just a couple of days ago when the house started. So you have a panel of vice chairpersons that elected Lakshmikant. We'll take a look at just quick revision within 10 minutes of the vice chairpersons in Rajya Sabha. And then some questions, very important questions coming your way. And third, then from vice chairpersons, we'll head over to Gujarat, where we will take a look at the salt pan workers and Agaria community. All right. So again, the primary theme of the two articles that we are going to go ahead is going to be on the larger debate. The mains question, if it were to be formed, would be about the debate between community versus conservation. If you have been following the news recently, you must have read about the Forest Rights Act, the proposed changes to it. How does it go ahead and affect communities? So we'll understand that in like say 5 to 10 minutes again as a part of the segment of the class, and see if you can grasp that difference, that okay, conservation of animals is one thing. You also have communities that live in the fringes of the forest or within the forest area whose rights also need to be taken care of, prime importance. So how do you achieve a balance between the two? All right. And so the two primary acts that we take a look at is the Forest Rights Act 2006 and the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. All right, or 78 was it? 72. WPA was 1972. Okay, so we'll take a look at both of them. Okay. Sai Krishna, good morning. Jai Hind Dapalpur, good morning. Good morning. Guys, thank you for joining. All right. Okay, first we'll take a look at the questions from yesterday, because that's what we always do, outcome-based learning. So the first statement was Gujarat has the highest area under wetlands in India. Absolutely correct. In fact, this question has been formed from an Indian Express article on Ramsar sites that was there just last month. All right, so we had done this article too. So we'll just take a look at that. Gujarat has the highest area under wetlands, correct. The geographical area of coastal wetlands is higher than the inland wetlands. Unfortunately, no. All right. What you find is again, I was surprised to find this, but many organizations, institutes seem to think this is correct. Whereas when you go on the ISRO website and you look at the ISRO report, we discussed that the ISRO carried out a large-scale survey of wetlands in India. And so from the ISRO's website is this particular statistic here. All right. Wetlands comprise 4.6% of the country's geographical area. Most of them, in fact, 43% found inland, whereas 24% found in coastal areas. which means this is incorrect in fact. All right, if you look at state-wise, Gujarat being the highest, then you have the usual bigger states, Andhra Pradesh, UP and West Bengal. All right, know these, have a general idea, kahan pe zyada milta hai. You don't need to remember the facts, the statistics, but at least have a basic idea whether coastlands are higher or inland is higher. All right, there is no specific definition for urban lakes in India is correct. It's in fact, it's one of the primary criticisms when it comes to say watershed management or wetland management, that our urban lake definition is not very correct, not very proper in fact. All right, Chilka Lake was listed. All right, this was listed on the Montreal record as part of the Ramsar Convention. Montreal record, if you are not doing good enough work, it's like a, a seal on the top of your face that he is not studying enough. It's like that. That you're not doing enough conservation, you go on the Montreal record, which means there is increased focus now. Increased focus not just of the Ramsar Convention, but also required from the national perspective. Chilka was a part of this, taken down in the 2000s, because again, massive restoration work was carried out by the Indian government. All right, so this is incorrect, which means our correct statements here being 1 and 3. All right, let's go to the second one. Okay, correctly matched. Well, this was a straightforward question. All of them are correctly matched here. All right, Methi is in Mumbai, Belandur, the lake that caught fire in Bengaluru. Adyar, again, when you look at the Chennai floods, Adyar flood plain management was one of the key criticisms because of which Chennai floods happened. So Adyar in Chennai, and Deepor Beel in Guwahati, the storm surge protection for the city of Guwahati. All right, so these 4 are all correctly matched. Let's go to C. Bogs are found with cold climate and have peat formation. Yes, we discussed this yesterday. Where are bogs? What are bogs? Peatland, where is it found? Absolutely correct statement. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Saltwater marshes contain halophilic plants, which means plants that love salt water. They're conducive to growth in such extreme salt environment. Okay. So this is correct. Sardar Sarovar Lake is formed by the actions of not the river Tapi, but in fact the river Narmada. All right, this is the only change here. So the correct statements being 1 and 2. Let's go forward. Permafrost exists only in the northern hemisphere. Unfortunately, no. Also in the southern hemisphere, you find it, a lot of it in the Tibetan Plateau. Tibetan Plateau is not in the northern hemisphere, is it now? Okay. Tibetan Plateau contains permafrost. Thawing of permafrost, which means the change of state of permafrost from say that icy state to now melting away, that is called thawing. So thawing of permafrost will not help, in fact, it will aggravate climate change because all the trapped carbon will come out. All right, you are also looking at sea level rise, all of that happening, which means it's not going to be beneficial for us. So this is incorrect. So our incorrect statements here being 1 and 3. All right, let's look at our individuals now. I have had to thank you first for this also. Okay, first time I saw more than 10-12 answers, and I'm genuinely happy, genuinely pleased to see the response. So all of these individuals, you may have got 1 or 2 incorrect. It's okay, doesn't matter. The main thing is you are taking part in the class. You are focusing on the outcome based learning, and you will not go wrong with this. Okay, so Bipen, Samarth, Fervin, Shubham, Asha, Tanu, Mandeep, Arka, Jyotsna, Coder, Evergreen, Monica, Karuna and Rajan. Thank you so much firstly. All of you have done very well answering the questions. You might have got 1 or 2 incorrect, but have a look and you will recall this whenever you go forward. Okay, so congratulations to all of you. The rest, if you want to see your name up here in the leaderboard, I have 6-7 important questions for you. All right, just give it a go. In the comment box after the class finishes, 5 minutes, sare answer likh dalo. See whether you get them incorrect, correct. You will remember it this way. Okay, you will remember pictorial representation is important. Okay, chali, let's go to Goa now. All right, every friend group plans to Goa once in a while. Never happens, but with me you will go to Goa this morning. So we'll take a look at Madei Wildlife Sanctuary. All right, so first, if you understand the wildlife sanctuary in Goa, there are many of them. Okay, there are around 6-7 major ones. So first you have Bhagwan Mahavir Sanctuary, which is this part here, the southern part. All right, let me change this first. The southern part is the Bhagwan Mahavir. The northern part is Madei. Now Madei, as you know, is a major river in the state of Goa, which when you come to say Panjim, when you go to Panaji, that river changes name to Mandovi. All right. So what you find is tourists also go to see the sea beaches, also stay in the villas or in that boat on that river Mandovi. All right. So you have these particular organizations, wildlife sanctuaries there. Now, what is important? Mahadevi is a contiguous tiger landscape. What does it mean? What does a landscape mean? Which means an area that is of importance to the tiger. Now, you and I both know that tiger is what? Like an apex species, right? In fact, if it is there in the forest, if you find tiger in a particular forest, it is considered to be that the health of the forest is very good. All right. So now what you have found is that in Mahadevi, you have been finding, say, pug marks, tiger droppings. All right. In fact, camera traps, all of that have caught the presence of tiger. Now what happened unfortunately was 2 years ago, in 2020, 4 tigers were found dead, 1 mother and 3 cubs. So straight away the problem arose that what happened? Firstly, the allegation was that it was poisoning. So straight away the NTCA, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, a statutory body under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, now that came up and said, you know what, you're not doing something correct here. You can't have tigers dying. So they sent recommendations saying that Mahadevi Wildlife Sanctuary be converted into a tiger reserve. Alright, so right now we have around say 54 tiger reserves in the country. The latest one was, I think, Guru Ghasidas in Chhattisgarh. Okay, Ghasidas Tiger Reserve in Chhattisgarh. I think someone correct me if I'm wrong. Alright, Dibang in fact is going to become a tiger reserve. So what is happening? NTCA has got this particular tangent that we should go ahead and protect tiger conservation. There should be immense focus. You can't have tigers dying because they are the apex species. They determine the health of the forest. Alright. So a contiguous tiger landscape to Bhimgarh Wildlife Sanctuary in Karnataka, and then you have the Anshi Dandeli just south of it. Okay. Yes. So what do you find is again, it's essentially I'm hinting at is a tiger corridor. Okay. So you have a sort of a tiger corridor developing there. Okay. Now in India, there are many tiger corridors. The primary ones being say Mudumalai, Nagarhole, Bandipur. That whole stretch from say Karnataka till Tamil Nadu. One of the primary tiger corridors. You have in Kaziranga a tiger corridor. Alright. So these tiger corridors mean what? That the tiger is roaming. It's its area of inspection. You know, it's like that quote, I am the monarch of all I survey. So the tiger is the monarch of all his surveys within that particular area, and that is called the tiger corridor. Alright. So now both Bhagwan Mahavir and Mahadevi, you find that they are in the basin of the river Mahadevi, which becomes Mandovi. Know the geography first and let's go forward and understand the topic. So you had 4 of the tigers that were found dead. Alright. Now straight away, the NTCA went and recommended that Mahadevi Wildlife Sanctuary be upgraded to a tiger reserve. Okay. Now this proposal came from the NTCA side. Now if you have to straight away understand first, how do you notify a tiger reserve? So that the first clause says that the proposal should come from the state government. However, this was I think in 2011. Jairam Ramesh, who is in the opposition now, he was the forest minister that time. And he came up with this suggestion saying that, okay, we should have Mahadevi Wildlife Sanctuary as a tiger reserve, and you find that the Goa government right from 2011 has not been very warm to this idea. Now primarily, the focus of the Goa government is that it has its mining industry there, okay, some regulated, some unregulated, and it wouldn't want to upset that mining industry, that development that is happening there. Because once you have the tiger reserve that is notified, an increased level of surveillance and protection and oversight by the NTCA is seen. Thanks Rajan letting me know. ठीक है. Alright. So Goa government now opposes this measure. Why? Because पैसे की बात है. So the Goa bench of the Bombay High Court has now asked Goa government to notify this within a particular stipulated time. I forget the time. But the Goa government has said that they are going to appeal this in the Supreme Court. ठीक है. Now understand a few things now. What the court has said, because this will give you a sense of where this whole outcome is going to happen. The court says that the presence of tiger is an indicator of the well-being of the ecosystem. Now, there is another debate, in fact, you should also focus on this, is the focus of transient tigers versus those who stay. Okay, the ones who are making that forest its home. So now the Goa government says that our Mahadev Wildlife Sanctuary, being a part of the Western Ghats, is a transient area, which means it's a part of the tiger corridor is what they're admitting, and that it does not stay here, it's just a part of its route. So there is no need to do anything here. But the court says that no, because it is again a part of its route, so it becomes all the more important to secure that route, which can be best done by, say, making it into a tiger reserve. Are you able to get this, guys? Okay. So the tiger corridor. See, without tiger corridors, tiger habitats can become fragmented, tiger populations isolated. You need to give the tiger, its own area of dominance. If you do not give its own area of dominance, what happens is man-animal conflict or human-animal conflict becomes more. So the tiger, it's a monarch. You need to give a king its kingdom. That's what the whole thing is about. The Goa government does not want to give the kingdom to the king. All right, let's go forward now. Okay, so how are tiger reserves notified? Important from the pre-perspective, please. I have noticed, I've mentioned this in my today's Telegram channel, that the topics we're doing today find most relevance from the pre-perspective. Okay, so how are tiger reserves notified? Firstly, notified by the state governments. Okay, as per provision of the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, on the advice of the NTCA. Now, if you have been reading your polity, you will know that these are very important words. Whether the advice is binding or not binding. सबसे पहला सवाल आपके ज़हन में उठना चाहिए. Because UPSC यही पूछेगा. ठीक है. So now the court has observed, okay, that the advice given by the NTCA on the state government is binding. All right. This is what the court has observed, that interpretation of the section 38 of the Wildlife Protection Act says that this particular advice that the NTCA, the recommendation that the NTCA provides to the state government is binding on the state government. All right. Now the following steps. First, ideally you would have had a proposal that comes from the state. However, in this case, the NTCA has gone ahead and taken suo motu cognizance. All right. So now this step again, this is what the Goa government is challenging. That we never asked for it, why is it being given upon us? Now the High Court, the Goa bench of the Bombay High Court, they have said that, well, the advice is completely binding and NTCA's actions are completely in consonance. All right. In principle, approval is communicated from the NTCA, which basically lays out the whole proposal. Then NTCA recommends the proposal to the state. The state government is the one that notifies the area as a tiger reserve. Be sure of this now first. Okay. ठीक है Rajan. Okay. So Ghasidas must have been the 52nd one in that case. 53 must have been Ranipur. I think Monica mentioned it. हाँ, Ranipur रहा होगा. Correct. ठीक है. Okay. I stand corrected. Now some of the commonly asked concepts. Okay, straight away we look at from the exam perspective. No idhar udhar ka baat. What is a viable tiger population? Which means a forest area or an area in which how many number of tigers should you have for it to be self-sufficient within that area, so that its population does not become threatened. So for what it says is the NTCA website, 80 to 100 tigers with a minimum of 20 breeding females. Okay. And what you need is the ratio should be skewed towards females. 3 criteria, you must remember all 3. Okay. Number 1, the number of tigers. Number 2, the number of breeding females. And the sex ratio should be in favor of the female tigers. Be sure of this, exam perspective. Now, what are the viable tiger landscapes in the country? Which means those areas which satisfy this particular criterion. Okay, you find the Nagarhole, Bandipur, Mudumalai, Wayanad, Moida, Segur. Very, very important. In fact, one of the most richest areas of tiger in the country. Which state has the highest number of tigers, guys? Let me give you options. Is it Maharashtra? Is it Madhya Pradesh? Is it Karnataka? Or is it Goa? Can someone tell me in the chat very quickly? Which state has the highest number of tigers in the country? Good morning, Tanu. Welcome, welcome. Let me know, guys. Okay. So, this particular tiger corridor, again, a viable tiger population exists. Obviously, Corbett, Sundarbans. Then you go to the northeast, Kaziranga, Karbi Anglong. कितने हुए? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 areas of viable tiger population. Madhya Pradesh, correct. Correct, Deepak. Good. Be aware of the tiger facts. Karnataka is second, I believe, Bipen. Madhya Pradesh is the highest number of tigers, I think. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong. What is the carrying capacity now? Again, another term that you should be aware of. Carrying capacity is the maximum population size that can sustain in perpetuity. What does perpetuity mean? That you don't need to go ahead and do any sort of ex-situ conservation. Okay, that all things are being done there. You know, the natural forest is so strong that the tiger population can sustain itself without having, say, any human intervention there. Okay, so that's the carrying capacity. So that takes into account the food, the water, and the predator hunting ratio that you have. Say for a particular predator, how many prey do you need? So that ratio also needs to be taken care of. Clear? So these are again very important from the pre-perspective. Make sure that you know the difference between viable tiger population, or tiger corridors where the viable tiger population exists, and also know about the carrying capacity of the forest. Clear? Let's go forward. So now this particular angle now, the transient tigers versus resident tigers. So this is what the Goa government is saying, okay, that Mahadei is in fact only for transient tigers. The tigers don't live there, they are just passing by. Okay? Right? Now, what does the resident tigers mean? That it's a part of that particular forest. You know, it's its home. Even though it's a part of a corridor, it lives there. So what do you find now? Look at this map and you will get a more clearer idea. This particular area, identified Kaziranga and Karbi Anglong. Right? You look at this now. The red areas are the ones where you find that you have the viable tiger population that is in fact living there. That is not on the move. Okay. Again, this area, the Mudumalai, Nagarhole, Bandipur, along the Western Ghats, biodiversity hotspot. A part of it is again the Goa, the Mahadei, which means unless you include Mahadei in this larger area that the tiger is roaming around, it is a weak spot. You have had 4 tigers killed today, more will be killed tomorrow. Yes, oversight is not there, which is why the NTCA has gone ahead and done this. Be very clear of these two angles, the transient tigers versus the resident tigers. ये किताबों में नहीं बताया जाता है. ठीक है? Let's go forward. So now the reasons for tiger decline in India. Why are they going ahead and, why is the number? Because in the middle you must have seen that our tiger population went up to some 1300s. Then suddenly it has come down again. You know, it's not showing a straight away an increasing graph. It is thoda aise chal raha hai. So which means there are some areas that need to be quickly addressed. What are those areas? Number one, degradation of forest status. Okay. You are looking at all of this happening. Why? Human pressure. Livestock pressure, ecologically unsustainable land use. Now livestock, I'll tell you how. In say rural areas, you have say the livestock, the cattle. That is obviously a prey for the tiger. At the same time, you find that the street dogs, these village dogs, okay, these village dogs, the tiger comes. You must have seen these videos also, no guys. Good morning, Shashank. How are you? Hi, good morning. You must have seen these particular videos where a tiger or a leopard comes and hunts a particular street dog and absolutely silence. You know, there's no way the street dog even has an idea that the tiger or the leopard has come. How does that happen? And what's the challenge associated with it? Number one is the problem of distemper, okay, and other diseases which the dogs carry within themselves. The tiger goes ahead, consumes it. Guess what happens to the tiger? You understand? So it's not just say the problem of human-animal conflict, but then the problems and the challenges arising for the tiger out of that, the health problems. So directly affecting the health of the population of the tiger. All right. You're looking at fragmentation leading to loss of gene flow. Again, why is loss of gene flow? You know what? Most of these, do you know guys what a stud book is? Can someone tell me what a stud book is? Very quickly. We have discussed the Central Zoo Authority, no guys? The Central Zoo Authority. We have discussed the red panda conservation. We have discussed the snow leopard conservation. We had discussed PNHZP, the Padmaja Naidu Himalayan Zoological Park. So stud book is essentially what? I'll tell you. Say you have 5 tigers here, okay, 5 males and 5 females. Okay. Now a stud book is essentially maintained. This book, okay, it's maintained by the forest department. What it essentially does is trace the lineage of the male, trace the lineage of the female. Kaun papa tha, kaun mama tha. Why is that done? So that there is no cross breeding happening. Because cross breeding between tigers means what? Weaker genes, weaker offsprings. The same thing that applies to humans. Why is cross breeding or say why can't someone marry their own family member? Besides the fact that it is gross, second is the fact that scientifically it is not desirable. You know, you need better genes. So it's always desired that you go ahead and say marry outside your realm, right? Same thing in tigers. That if you have the father and the mother who were probably related 5 generations pehle, but now if they are breeding, the offspring will be pakka kharab. It may not survive. So the same thing, all those details know कि किसका क्या lineage है, so that the cross breeding does not happen. Okay, that is maintained in a stud book. Make a note of this, please. Again, you will not find this in any kitab. Okay, so stud book is maintained to make sure that there is no loss of gene flow. All right, loss of forest quality, tiger deaths due to man-animal conflict, poaching, reproduction, adequate protection, insurgency. All of these are reasons. Okay, you know of all of the reasons. I don't need to explain them one by one. Okay, but make sure that you take a note of this plus the transient angles, guys. Okay, I don't find that mentioned in any kitab at all. I had a look at the so-called major kitab, the major books that students use, and I couldn't find any mention of stud book. I couldn't find any mention of transient tigers, resident tigers. Okay, it's all the same. It's copy paste from Wikipedia is what most of the books do. But you ought to know. Okay. All right. Now let's understand this, guys, because this has been in the news recently. So what is the problem? Okay. First, let's look at the Forest Rights Act 2006. Now being amended, Forest Rights Amendment Bill is under consideration. But the Forest Rights Act, now if you look at the whole debate around tiger conservation in India, there are 3 angles that you need to be aware of. 1, the Forest Rights Act. Number 2, the Wildlife Protection Act. And number 3 is the entity of the Gram Sabha. Okay, we'll understand this in 5 minutes or less. Now the Forest Rights Act, forget all of the details, ठीक है? वो किताबी knowledge छोड़ दो, आप topic समझो. The Forest Rights Act talks about 2 things: individual forest rights, community forest rights. If you look at, say, the forest management angle of India, the act that talks about the people living in the forest and their rights is the Forest Rights Act. Whereas the act that talks about the animals, the plant, all of the flora, fauna in the forest is the Wildlife Protection Act. Good morning, Jaipal. Welcome, swagat hai. ठीक है. Now, two different acts, 2 different tangents. What has been alleged over time is that the Forest Rights Act that was for, say, the people, that has been diluted over time. And I'll give you a very practical example. How has that been diluted? Okay. So suppose you are a person from the scheduled tribe living deep or on the fringes of a forest. Okay. Your generations, previous generations have been a part of the forest. Think the movie Kantara, agar aapne wo movie dekha hoga. Right? That you share a symbiotic relationship with the forest. It's the purpose of your existence, the mode of your existence. That you get your food, you get your fish, you get your fruits, you get the firewood for making all of that from the forest. All of that was guaranteed, in fact is guaranteed under the Forest Rights Act, which means what is it given to you? That under individual forest rights, agar main ek villager hu, I am allowed to hold 4 hectares of land, okay? 4 hectares of land I can hold and cultivate on it, provided I have been cultivating on it, okay? Now, if there is any new land that people have started cultivating on, that is not included in the Forest Rights Act. At the same time, as a community, as a village, all of us have the right of using the forest. How so? Say honeys, honey ka nikalne ke liye. Or say you go ahead and get firewood. Or you go ahead and get fish from the local river or the stream that is passing by. that is allowed under Forest Rights Act. There is also the provision that there should be, say, resettlement in case someone wants to go out. Voluntary resettlement should be there. Now the problem arises here. The problem arises how? So you are a villager, you go inside the forest, you kill a fish or a crab. You have it. It's part of your daily sustenance. Now that fish, if it is, say, protected under the Wildlife Protection Act, obviously it becomes an illegal activity. However, if it is the fish that is not protected under Wildlife Protection Act, you as a villager have the full right of it. But this dilution has happened how? Villagers get caught and, say, charged, in fact, for having normal fish, which may not be in the protected class category. So eventually what has happened, this is one example that I have told you. Okay. The eventual thing has happened is that not just, say, from the villagers' relationship with the forest, you have also found that the character of the land has now started to change. Okay. That's ecotourism is now taking precedence over, say, the forest dwellers' rights with the forest. Okay. So once the nature of the land is changed from, say, forested to, say, something else, commercial or non-forested, or at the same time you have this particular forest act that is getting diluted, what happens? Those people who are living in the forest, suddenly they find themselves completely excluded from the conversation. Okay. And at the same time, you found in certain states that the forest department has taken a very military approach of conservation. Okay. That there is no collaboration happening. In fact, it is either the forest department's way or no way at all. This is again being alleged. This is not my thought, not my point of view. I have read articles which has mentioned this criticism. Okay. So you go ahead and look at it. First, the individual forest rights. Then you have the community forest rights under the Forest Rights Act, which means you have the ability, the right of minor forest produce. In South Bengal, okay, in Southern Bengal, what you find is that the sal leaves, the leaves of sal tree, okay, the leaves are dried and they are made into pattals, plates. Nowadays, the people in the West sell them for like $100 for 10 of them, calling it sustainable plates. I don't know, God, we have been using it since ages. So that is again what? A minor forest produce that you are allowed to collect. And then you have these groups, you know, the self-help groups. They will come, they will use that, they'll make pattals out of it, plates out of it, sell it in the market. See how that relationship is developed with the forest. Suddenly, if you find that you can't go ahead and collect sal leaves from the forest, what happens? Do you realize? Then at the same time, you are allowed to collect firewood. You are allowed to take your cattle for grazing, but the grazing land is again demarcated. You can't take them deep inside the forest and then if something goes wrong, then attack the forest department. Does not work that way. Demarcated area है, वहाँ ले जाके चारा चरवाइए आप. Okay. See, Bulbul has a question. How do they know that the particular type of fish is under the section? That is the problem, Bulbul. That is the criticism, no? That because lack of awareness, at the same time this dilution of law, that even the forest guard may not be aware that the particular fish is, say, under the section 1 protected list of, say, Wildlife Protection Act. But an excuse has been found now to charge the villager, okay, that you have encroached in the forest area. दोनों को नहीं पता है कि वो protected है कि नहीं है, पर वो lack of awareness का misuse करा जा रहा है, ठीक है? And then you also have water bodies, say all these fish, crabs that they eat from there, from the water bodies in the forest. So again, this lack of awareness from both the parties, this is again misused, much to the detriment of the forest dwellers. Are you able to get this? Now at the same time, what do you find? That the institution of Gram Sabha, which is in fact the nodal authority for community forest rights and individual forest rights. Okay, because again there needs to be an element of local self-governance. You can't just leave it to, say, the forest department. What do you find is that the Gram Sabha, that was the nodal authority for protecting these two rights, that also stands diluted now. Its powers have also been snatched away. Much has been, say, given in the hands of the district forest officer, the DFO, who is probably someone who's just cleared UPSC, the Indian Forest Service, and got his first posting. Okay, so do you understand that? This is what the problem is. Eventually, the forest rights are being negated for these dwellers, for these forest individuals. And so in Mahadei also, in the Mahadei case, why did I discuss this? Because eventually in the Mahadei case also, there are dwellers there, okay? There are particular tribesmen there, so who again stand to probably lose if the tiger reserve were to be introduced, which means because again, stricter enforcement. Do you understand that? So it's my job to give you both sides of the argument. I will not take only the argument of for forest department or for the other party. Both sides I have presented before you. Now your job is to form an informed view here. And so one question that you should look to understand is this first. Has Forest Rights Act been reduced to a mere paper tiger? Because the initial thought process of the Forest Rights Act was completely to protect the interests of the tribal workers, the tribal individuals, the forest dwellers. What you find though is that's not happening in the case. And now with the recent amendment bill, that is probably in the House also, it has been passed in the Lok Sabha, I believe. Okay. So it will get done in this session. So the changes of that need to be analyzed. So once that happens, we will again revisit this topic and go into the whole detail of FRA versus Wildlife Protection Act. Clear? Okay. All right. So the questions we begin for today. All these questions, again, I request you all to answer them in the comment box at your own time, but make sure you answer them before tomorrow morning, say 7 a.m. because that's when I eventually wrap up the whole slide. Okay? Okay, let's look at the first option. All rights of a people within a national park have to be settled, while a sanctuary, certain rights can be allowed. So again, I'm talking about the rights of the forest individuals, the forest dwellers. Okay? The forest rights, because this becomes an important conversation in terms of say wildlife sanctuary, in terms of national park, in terms of biosphere reserve and in terms of tiger reserve. किस पे कहाँ पे क्या मिलता है, कितने rights दिए जाते हैं लोगों को, that you need to be aware of. So go ahead and attempt this question. Number 2, livestock grazing is prohibited in a national park but can be allowed in a regulated manner in sanctuaries. A sanctuary can be upgraded to a national park, but a national park can't be downgraded as a sanctuary. And a tiger reserve can have the following zonation: core, critical and buffer areas only. Which of the above are correct? You will answer for me this in the comment box. Okay, take your own time. Think of the examples I've given you, the answer lies therein. Thereafter, you will match these for me. Buxa Tiger Reserve, BTR. Is it in Assam? If you have been following Twitter, okay, this IFS officer Parveen Kaswan, he is probably the Deputy Field Director of Buxa Tiger Reserve. So go ahead. Where is he serving in? Is he serving in Assam or which cadre? Dudhwa, is it in Uttar Pradesh? Mudumalai in Tamil Nadu? Nagarhole in Karnataka? Let me know the correctly matched. When you answer them this way, guys, so that it's easier for me to quickly have a look at your answers. Okay. Next, Wagheri Hills forms a part of the Madhei Wildlife Sanctuary. NTCA's recommendations are binding on the state government. NTCA is a statutory body comprising 3 members of the parliament, 2 of whom are elected by the House of the People, 1 by the Rajya Sabha. Correct or incorrect? Does the NTCA also have MPs that are present there? Have a look. Spend 10 minutes on the NTCA website today. It's a plethora of information. My God, the information there. Like it'll take you at least 15 minutes to understand the whole thing. Okay. All right. That brings the first topic for us to a close. We discussed Madhei Wildlife Sanctuary. We discussed whether it will become a tiger reserve. Should it become a tiger reserve? We discussed FRA versus Wildlife Protection Act. And we discussed what does tiger corridors, viable tiger population carrying capacity, all of that. Okay. All right. Take a sip of your chai. Now, this closes very soon. The optionals. Okay. Optional is closing on the 26th, I believe. Okay. 26th is when we close this, which is today, tomorrow in fact. And the classes begin on the 31st, which is coming Monday. All right. So go ahead, sign up for this because time is limited. You have only till December to prepare your optional. If you do not prepare your optional before December, well, you know better. Okay. Maybe I do not know enough about the UPSC examination. Because what I can tell you is all those who get good marks in mains have a very big proportion of that come from their optional papers. Okay. Your optional, your mains are like, the prerequisites for you to get a rank. Sirf pre padh ke to hoga nahi. So go ahead. If you would like to go ahead and sign up for this, all these subjects, PSIR, sociology, geography, philosophy, history, PubAd, maths, anthropology and Hindi Sahitya. If any of you would like to go ahead and sign up for this, head over to studyiq.com. All right. This is closing tomorrow evening. So use the code BALIVE. I am with the geography team. So you will find me sometimes in your geography class too. And so use the code BA Live, okay? So that assures that I become a part of your preparation. You get allotted to my batch at least. Okay? All right. Now moving to Rajya Sabha, where a lot has been happening. Yesterday a member was suspended. Okay. So I thought we should discuss today a bit about, say, suspension of members. But then there is not a lot. It's quite simple really. Okay. There's a question. Can you please tell me what is the difference between your YouTube session and your batch session? Oh, Shivam, that's a very pointed and a very good question. I didn't expect this. Ideally, I'll tell you something, Shivam. No difference. From my point of view, no difference at all. If you have been following these sessions, my 1 hour is intense. I don't stop for a moment because that's the point. Same thing in the batches also. There's no difference. In fact, there you get a lot of chance to say interact and get feedback from us. Your mains answer writing, that is a part of it. You know, we give you, यहाँ भी सवाल देते हैं हम आपको, पर मॉडल आंसर देने में मुझे टाइम लग जाता है. वहाँ पे मॉडल आंसर आपको हाथों हाथ मिल जाएगा. यहाँ पे फीडबैक देने में मुझे करीब 1-2 दिन तो लगते ही है. वहाँ पे आपको फीडबैक मैं शाम तक प्रेजेंट करूँगा. ठीक है. एट द सेम टाइम यू गेट मेंटरशिप देयर. You know, test series is included. यहाँ तो test के नाम पे I can only provide you 6-7 questions. I have the paucity of time here. Okay. I don't have a common platform where I can engage with you. Telegram channel is mostly one-way communication. I would like to hear from you guys also. So most of you do send me regular emails. I appreciate that. But then an easier method is to connect on the StudyIQ dashboard, the app there, as part of the Prelims to interview program. That also is coming your way. Okay, Shivam. So this is again the basic difference. But as a teacher, my motivation is the same. Whether be it in the batch, the paid batch, or whether be it here on YouTube with all my students early morning, I have to give my best. And I will make sure that I introduce you to all the concepts, the topics that are exam required. You know, story नहीं सुनाना है मुझे आपको. ठीक है? Okay. Vice chairperson वाला देखते हैं अभी. So in the house you have the chairperson, you have the deputy chairperson, and then you have a panel of vice chairpersons. The Rajya Sabha I am talking about. Okay, the VP. Here right now the deputy chairperson is Hari Vansh, and then you have a panel that was nominated within the members, from the members of the Rajya Sabha just 2 days ago on Monday. All right. So now panel of vice chairpersons in Rajya Sabha, members of the panel preside over the house in the absence of the chairman and the deputy chairman. Both need to be absent or both need to be probably not there, and then you have the panel come. So 8 members are there. They decide rotation wise, they go and preside over the house. Now if you have been following say Rajya Sabha streams, or if you have ever bothered to look at the Rajya Sabha streams, you will see normally, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, ये तो ये पॉलिटी एंगल है. होता क्या है? You have the house running for say 10, 12, 14 intense days, and now that you know there's a lot of chikham chilli going on from both sides. What happens eventually? The vice president, the chairman, he stays till say the end of the question hour. ठीक है? 11 बजे चालू होता है राज्यसभा, 12-12:15 तक राज्यसभा चेयरपर्सन रहते हैं. उसके बाद deputy chairperson comes, stays till say 2-2:30. After that, what happens? You have the vice chairpersons come. Normally, this is what happens, okay? This is the kitabi knowledge, the practical knowledge I'm telling you. Why? Because, again, old individuals, they get tired, sleepy. After lunch, you have the young people come and take over, okay? So, this is the whole proceeding. So, when these two are tired or unavailable, that is the term used. When they are unavailable, then you have the vice chairpersons come and regulate the house, okay? Now, total 8 in number. Panel members are typically experienced parliamentarians from almost all the parties. You see cross-party representation there, okay? Ensuring broad representation in the upper house functioning. This is what they do, okay? They will assist the chairman, which means when the chairman is busy or sleepy, you go ahead and take care of the house. Presiding over sessions, the less important sessions, not the more important sessions, no. Committees. In fact, each of them will be a part of a particular committee and will be in fact heading that particular committee too. So you have a committee on say international relations, you will have a committee on energy, on transport, on house rules, on BSc, all of that. They will be a part of that particular committee and leading that committee. Okay? Which means you can understand that they have a slightly higher importance in the eyes of the house than the rest of the members. Slightly. Because again, they are part of say major committees that they are leading. All right. Let's go forward. So now what you found recently was that on Monday, हाँ तभी तो शुरू हुआ ना, 4 women parliamentarians were nominated, which has happened for the first time. So 4 out of 8 out of the panel of chairpersons are now women, which has happened for the first time in the history of Rajya Sabha, which is why it becomes important for you and I to know about it. Okay. Equal representation in the panel, first time in the history of the Rajya Sabha. Now, what are the challenges? This is all good and fine. But what are the challenges that the chairperson, the panel of chairpersons face? Because again, they are part of the different political parties. Okay. Consensus reaching is a very difficult task. And the House is a body for, say, consensus reaching. Because legislation happens through consensus. No? That's a large number of people agree. You must have seen, no? A motion is raised in the House. All those in agreement say aye. So you'll have the particular side say aye. All those in disagreement say no, nay. And then a feeble noise will come, nay. What is happening? A consensus is reached between a particular number of people and the legislation is passed or rejected or proposed or modified, whatever it be. But it's a body of consensus building. But when you have, say, different political parties coming together with their own narrow petty interests, consensus building becomes difficult. So how do you address that? One thing is learn from the global best practices. Because again, we are not the only ones with a large number of different political parties that have representation in the House. So the global best practices must be observed here. What you find is a lot of, say, inter-parliamentary delegations travel to other countries. So we will have, say, a delegation from, say, Tanzania come, or an African Union representation will come. They'll look at the House proceedings. Our people go to some other countries to learn about how do they work. This ought to be done on a more regular basis. Okay. All of this, rules and procedure, training and capacity building. Some of them probably may not be aware of the rules of the House. Just recently we discussed the difference between 267 versus 176. Okay. And you still find that members of parliament saying that 267 should be allowed to be accepted by the chairperson so that we can go ahead and debate matters of importance. But you and I both know that 267 talks about suspension of rules. All right. Suspension of business comes from 176. The short duration motion, the short duration discussion. You see? So this ought to be aware to the parliamentarians. Unless they are aware of the finer intricacies, only then can they go ahead and engage in a constructive debate. No? So this is required. Okay? Okay. Let's look at the information that UPSC will ask you. First things first. A member of the panel of vice chairperson cannot preside over the House when the office of the chairperson is vacant. Okay. So like I told you, you had chairperson, deputy chairperson and the panel of chairpersons. Their existence is dependent on these two existing. If these two don't exist, they also don't exist. Okay. They are only there in the absence. The difference is the term between absence versus vacant. Make a note of this. This is where UPSC will catch you. Okay? क्योंकि examination perspective में क्या होगा? आपका दिमाग सोचेगा absence मतलब vacancy, vacancy मतलब absence. There is a difference. Absence means that the person is there, present, but not in the house. Busy. Vacant means है ही नहीं वो, उस पद पे ही कोई नहीं है. Okay? So again, two terms you need to be aware of from the pre-perspective. And during such time, the chairman's duties are to be performed by such member of the House as the President may appoint. When these two are missing, the President of India, Srimati Draupadi Murmu, comes into the picture. She appoints probably a senior member of the House as the acting chairperson. Clear? The President is the authority. This does not happen at the discretion of anyone else. The chairperson of the Rajya Sabha has no role to play here. Alright? Clear hai? Alright, let's look at the question now. Go ahead, question D for you. The deputy chairperson is subordinate to the chairman and works under his directive to ensure smooth proceedings. This is the operative word here, guys. Is he subordinate to the chairperson? Okay, have a look at this question. Schedule 4 of the Constitution deals with allocation of seats in the Rajya Sabha. Does Chandigarh have 1 seat? UT have 4 seats? Identify the correct statements. ये तो पता रहना ही चाहिए आपको. After the abrogation of Article 370, the 2 UTs were formed. Do they have representation in Rajya Sabha? Does Chandigarh's UT also have representation in Rajya Sabha? बताइए मुझे चैट पे. Okay, comment box में आप मुझे बताएंगे. E. The chairman of the Rajya Sabha may permit a member who is unable to express himself in Hindi or English to address the house in his mother tongue. Again, those who have ever watched any stream of Rajya Sabha, even for an hour, ये आंसर आपको चमक जाएगा बहुत आसानी से. Article 348 states that all proceedings in the Supreme Court and every High Court shall be in English language only. The governor of a state, with the previous consent of the president, authorize the use of Hindi language or any other language of under the schedule, okay, the 8th schedule, for any official purpose. The 22 scheduled languages we have, no? 22 languages. So, will the governor allow, can the governor allow it? Identify the correct statements. No options, no point of having options. याद रखना जरूरी है आपको, ठीक है? You will answer this for me. Fine. Now to answer your question, Shivam, this, the prelims to interview, we had one batch that closed on the 22nd, and this now closes on the 30th, the 31st in fact. Okay. The last batch for the prelims to interview initiative, evening batch in fact. इसके बाद अब कुछ है नहीं. तो again, those of you who are still in that tenter hooks, क्या करे, नहीं करे, क्या करना, नहीं करना, self study versus coaching, कौन सा coaching, नहीं coaching, so many questions come to the student's mind. And I was in the position that you were, say, a decade ago. So I understand that, you know, that conundrum. However, it's necessary for you to take an informed decision. Don't go by what your friend or your library friend or anyone tells you. You know, the proof of the pudding is in eating it. So go ahead, look at the StudyIQ website, look at the course deliverables, look at the faculty profiles. You will understand how this is different from anything else that you will experience. Okay, that you will be taught by individuals who have cleared the examination. There is so much of difference between those who have cleared the examination and those who have just been an aspirant. Okay, so go ahead and sign up for this. This closes on the 31st, classes beginning soon. All right, we come to the third topic for the day. And this is, we again travel to the run of Kutch. Okay, one of the most famous areas, in fact, in whenever you see any movies, anywhere, extensively, the festival of Kutch is also one of the primary attractions here. So, two things that you ought to remember first, from the exam perspective. In the run of Kutch, you have two particular areas. Okay, here, you have the little run of Kutch and the great run of Kutch. You will let me know which one is in Kathiawad. You will let me know in the chat. Okay. And at the same time, because besides this, what you find is two areas, जो आपने हमेशा से पढ़ा भी होगा. One is called the Sar Creek, okay, which is a dispute between Bharatvarsh and Pakistan. And you also have the Kori Creek. Okay. Two particular areas of importance for us first. Before we discuss the rest, the workers and the little wild ass and everything, two areas geography wise जो आपको ध्यान रखने हैं. एक है सर क्रीक, एक है कोरी क्रीक. What you find is they are part of the delta of river Indus. Okay, part of the delta of river Indus. याद रखेंगे ये आप please. Okay, Indus drains nearby, no? So it's a part of the delta. What you also find here is that salt marshes we discussed yesterday. Salt marshes, याद होगा आप लोगों को. So in salt marshes, what you find now? One more thing that you ought to be aware of. See how we just discussed, don't discuss the topic, we discuss all the tangents associated to it. Okay, so what happens? You have these areas around bordering this, these salt marshes. Okay, now there is ebb and flow of the tide, because again this is in the tidal zone. So ebb and flow happening. In the midst of this ebb and flow, at this particular swampy area, this marshy area, is a period when the ebb is equal to the flow, which means the water is still. समझो आप इतना बस. So because during this process of tide activity, no, ebb and flow, a period comes when the rate of inland and the rate of our outward movement becomes same. So there is a period of stillness. Okay, not much, ज़्यादा देर तक नहीं रहता ये. This is called slack tiding or slack tides. Okay, slack tides क्या होता है? When the water is still, ebb equals to flow, the water is still. Understand now what happens. Because the water is still, all the sedimentation goes onto the ground. Okay, deposition happens on the ground, then eventually the water goes, flow ho gaya, wapas, khatam. Now what happens? All the sediment that has gone there in this marshy area, this swampy area that is there, now that becomes the primary driver of that ecosystem. Okay. What you also find is, if you've been to say Kathiawad, if this particular area, okay, Kori Creek, Esa Creek, kabhi gaye honge aap. So I can tell you, I've been there. Whenever you go there, you find this rotten egg smell. You know, it's stench. Aisa lagta hai apne ko. Why is that smell there? Because during this slack tide, what you find is that a lot of hydrogen sulfide is in fact deposited there. And sulfide, you know, hydrogen sulfide is essentially what? The rotten egg smell. वो chemistry class में हम पढ़ते आए ना बचपन से. That is what happens in this area. Okay. Now, this was the geography. Now coming to the topic. So in this particular area, okay, the little run of Kutch, the salt pan workers, those who go ahead and ये जो slack tiding हुआ, उसके बाद जो deposition हुआ, वहाँ से जो निकालने का है उनको. So these are the Agarias. So the Agarias, what has happened is the Gujarat government has restricted their entry into the run of Kutch. Again, the same debate of the first topic, community versus conservation. The Gujarat government says that, well, it's home to the Indian wild ass, a very near threatened species of the IUCN in fact, and that you do not want these communities to go ahead and exploit it. Same conversation, tiger wala hi hai. ठीक है? So, what are the communities? Koli, Sandhi, Miana communities. They are the ones that will be getting affected. Okay. And you have had this particular area, the little run of Kutch, which has become a protected area, in fact, a wild ass sanctuary for the Indian wild ass. Okay. Now, Indian wild ass, it looks like a donkey only, okay, face wise. Baki, I have simplified it for you. What you realize is that why is it near threatened? That question should also come to your mind. Is it that, say, it was large scale hunting was going on? Not lot. In fact, if you there is a reference in Akbarnama which says that, okay, some amount of hunting was going on, but not to an extent that you would find that the population will be threatened. So how is it that this population stands threatened today? One of the primary thing is that they are susceptible to a disease called South African mammal disease, horse disease, South African horse disease, caused by fleas, vector-borne diseases again. Okay? So let's go forward. So now, this is the case. The people, the salt pan workers, what are they saying? That, well, this also is not the reason. Okay? That again, they are again herbivore. The Indian wild ass is completely not a very aggressive animal. They also, the salt pan workers go do their job, come back. So it's not like there is a lot of wild animal conflict. So why are we being restricted? At the same time, land use is less than 6% by the salt pan workers. Minimal, in fact. Why are they being again targeted? Concerns against improper survey and this, which becomes a debate for us to consider from the mains perspective, guys. Absolutely. You can expect some year, in the coming years, if not this year, maybe next, maybe the year after. But this will become a topic of interest for us to consider exhaustively. Because this is a larger trend that you find throughout the country. And mains questions are always on, say, the larger trends throughout the country, which we don't see because we are too focused on, say, the micro point of view. The macro overview. So, in, say, the example of Mahadei or the example of Dibang. Arunachal Pradesh mein hai na Dibang? Kaun se state mein hai? Alright. Many different conservation areas across the country are having this problem where the community is now excluded from the conservation debate. Which is why you are finding that the conservation efforts are not bearing the fruits that they would ideally have, because unless you include the community in the conservation process, they are the ones who are going to be leading the conservation process. Forest department akela kya kar lega? NTCA chairperson kya kar lega? Unless you include the people who are doing it. That's the whole point. So same thing here also. Community of the Agarias versus the conservation of the Indian wild ass. Clear hai ye baat? Okay, all right. The questions again, go ahead. You have to identify the incorrectly matched, the people who live and the people where they live. So Maldharis, are they in Gujarat? Zeliang, are they in Nagaland? The Onge, are they in Little Andaman? And the Abuj Marias, there is a place called Abuj Mand. Have you heard of this place, guys? अगर आप कभी भी न्यूज़पेपर वगैरह पढ़ना चालू किया होगा आप लोगों ने, if you have started reading the newspapers, you will find this particular area in the news. Okay, for the right reasons, wrong reasons, that's not important for us, but this stays in the news. अबुझमंद कौन से स्टेट में बताइए मुझे, if any of you know. If you know this particular area, this question is done. All right. And then this, the G. Run of Kutch are predominantly salt marshes that span in both India and Pakistan. Sir Creek and Kori Creek are part of the Indus River Delta. Indian wild ass is classified as near threatened by the IUCN. Identify the incorrectly matched. I have given you the answers to this already, I believe. इसका आंसर हम दे दिए हैं आपको, ठीक है? Okay. So with that, my dear children, we come to the end of this class. This is your mains question for the day. You know, I thought of no better question than this for today. So discuss the importance of community-based conservation in protecting India's endangered species. What I want you to essentially write on is community participation. Okay. Talk about community-based participation in monitoring and conservation efforts. Talk about the difference between FRA and WLP. Talk about the rights guaranteed, the individual forest rights, the community forest rights, how their rights have been diluted, you know, institutional dilution plus on the ground dilution, and give me a good answer, 200 words. Make sure that your answer includes a conclusion to this, because this question demands a conclusion. You know, it's asking you to do what? Discuss the importance of community-based conservation. You have to take a stand for them. So you have to end on a note of optimism, and probably a way forward you have to suggest. That community-based conservation is just not enough. Community-led conservation is the way forward. थोड़ा लंबा लंबा फेंकना पड़ेगा आपको लास्ट में, कंक्लूजन में. ठीक है, तो वो लिखना पड़ेगा वो लाइन. Only then it becomes a good answer, and you have to come from, say, the Forest Rights Act point. Unless you include the FRA versus Wildlife Protection Act debate in this answer, it will remain incomplete. Okay. Right, now we have completed the class. If you enjoyed this class, if you learned about, say, tiger conservation, about Forest Rights Act, Wildlife Protection Act, chairperson, go and give me a like, please. It's immense hard work to prepare at this level every morning, 1 hour, so that I do not waste a single second of yours. So leave me a like if you learned something out of this class. And please do send in the answer to this. I would really appreciate it. My email ID is bhuvan.jha@studiiq.com. Okay. Normally I take around 2 days to get back to you. पहले मैं एक दिन में कर देता था क्योंकि आंसर कम आते थे. आजकल आंसर्स काफ़ी आते हैं. I appreciate that. I will not complain about it one bit. But give me at least 24 to 36 hours to get back to you. ठीक है. Let me know the answer to this. I'll really appreciate it. अगर नहीं भी आया ना, 100 वर्ड ही लिख पाओ, आप लिख के भेजो मुझे. And here on, what I've decided yesterday also I mentioned in the class, that going forward, I will give you model answers. Okay. That will help you form better answers. Maybe it may not be the best answer, obviously, but it will give you a way forward. Okay. So I'll share the model answer for this, say, this evening around 4 p.m. Or not today. I'll share the model answer for this tomorrow. The model answer for yesterday's question, which many of you have already sent answers to, I will be uploading it by this evening. And your individual feedback will reach your email inbox also by this evening. Okay? Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for your time, for your patience. If you have any questions, I can take them. Because even though I have overshot the time, it's okay. कोई सवाल हो तो please पूछिए मुझसे. Okay? I have 5 minutes. अरे दीपक, thank you so much. Thanks Monica, thanks Shivam bhai. Thank you Arka, thank you. Any questions though? Anything at all? I'll be happy to take them, or else I will not waste a second of your time. Go ahead, have your breakfast, quickly go back through the slide again. I'll share it by 12 and make sure that you are completely focused on the goal now. Now is the business part of your preparation starting. अभी तक हल्के हल्के में भी चल रहा था तो ठीक है, पर अब अगस्त आ गया है, तो you need to be making sure कि आपका एक मिनट आप यूज़ करिए. Don't waste your time. ठीक है. Any problems you face, any strategy-wise guidance that you need, you have my email ID. Feel free to reach out. Okay, that's my whole purpose at StudyIQ IAS, that I serve the interests of my students who connect with me. Okay, and if you would like to go ahead and share the stream, we could do with more individuals joining, because again, this is a process that will help a lot of students. I am absolutely certain of that. It helped me, it helped so many others like me who have cleared the examination, different examinations, okay, not just say one examination, different examinations. This topic helps, like this approach helps. this topical approach to preparation rather than just sticking to the newspaper and not understanding anything out of it. Okay? So I hope to see you again, all of you, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. As we'll take a look at more of such questions and more of such topics. Till then, take care, study well, have a productive day. Okay? Bye.